Hi, this is Andrew Twidwell, owner of ABT Plumbing, Electric, Heating, and Air. Once again with the show You Got This. It's a show of DIY do's and don'ts. And I am virtually in the room with Rosalie. I'm in our Auburn office, and she is in her LA office, aka
My
living
office,
room.
that's fine. Nope.
Yeah, office.
Don't
And
don't
she
worry
got
about what
a,
room
and
I'm in.
if you're watching this, if you're seeing this on YouTube, she's got a brand new microphone, which is so good, and your voice sounds so much better. And I have to buy one. We keep upping the ante on our software and hardware on this show. So it's we've only been doing this for 5 years almost now, but we're getting there. We're getting there. So it takes a little while to figure this stuff out, especially in this new age of virtual working wherever you are kind of thing. But it's been nice because I can work from, I was just on a week trip up north and I was able to kind of work. But unfortunately, there's no such thing as true vacations anymore for me, with this reality that we live in with Zoom and Riverside and what's the other one? Microsoft Team, all the ones that I've got loaded up on my iPad and my MacBook, so I can be in with everybody. But yeah, so yeah, I just got back from a week and a half of going up and visiting family with my wife's family, her brother and his new wife, and had a good time. Actually got to go fishing with him and with Bob and his boss, who they've known each other for 25 years. And the last time I went fishing with the two of them was literally 25 years ago. It was crazy. He was living in Portland, and we went on the Columbia, and I caught a 3 foot steelhead on a little 14 foot aluminum boat. It was so fun. And they've kind of circled around, worked for different people. Now they're both working together again, for the county up in Vancouver, Washington. And they took me out to Merlin Lake. It's not spelled like a real Merlin, but and went kokanee fishing, and that was so fun. We got 30 fish, and oh my God, they taste so good. I'm still eating some. We smoked them, and oh gosh, it was fun. I didn't like waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning, but it was worth it. Yeah, and kind of in the you like the Northwest quite a bit. We almost
I
got up all the way to Seattle, but yeah,
I do. The Pacific Northwest is it's just beautiful, and it's just my daughter lived there for years and years, and I really miss her living there because now she lives in Arizona. So you
right.
couldn't
She
have
lives in Phoenix
chosen.
now, right?
Yeah, Phoenix area. She lives in a very bougie, expensive part of. I think it's called Cave Creek. So
Nice.
it's Phoenix adjacent, but yeah, I
Yeah,
would I
one of the
rather
fastest
visit.
growing areas in the country right now. Yeah.
Would I rather visit Arizona, or would I rather go up and hike in the forest and go look at the
Right.
Puget Sound? I think you know what I would choose. So I
Yeah.
was a little jealous. I was a little jealous of you. I was.
Yeah, it was nice, and we ended up. They live in Vancouver now, so we stayed on the Sandy River at our RV park. We took our new trailer. We bought an Airstream and just lived in the Airstream. Traded in our older Grand Design, and we're RVer people, and we stayed there, and then followed them up, and they bought a vacation house up on Harstine Island, on the it's kind of the South Sound, very
Oh,
south,
okay.
um, south end of the Sound, and below Woodby and all those. But they got this little place that they're planning on retiring to. They're both in their 60s, and Bob got a job with the county, so he's actually getting his financial life in order and going to be retiring here in the next 3 to 4 years. So it was cool seeing their little life up there and how pretty it is. And we totally lucked out. It was in the 70s and 80s up there, which was gorgeous and sunny. And then it got cloudy like the last day we were there, so we timed it well.
I
And
think
then
people don't really know what to expect up there. I've been up
yeah,
there in April and May when it's been very cold, very wet, and like you need a jacket the whole time.
yeah,
So it's kind of hard to predict what spring is going to be like in the Pacific Northwest.
yeah, you
But
never know.
I'm glad you had a good trip. I love the
Yeah,
pictures.
we were wearing
I
shorts and
I
t-shirts
saw.
and had to have the air conditioner running a couple times. And
It's tough
um,
to be you. I don't know how
yeah,
you got through the tough days. I'm concerned about you. I'm
but
concerned
yeah, it was
about you.
nice. It was nice to see it, and it was good hanging out with them. And yeah, love our Airstream. And my wife now, Betty's talking about we should full time. So when we retire, that's kind of like our new lofty goal of just going and traveling in a trailer or whatever that happens to be in the next 5 years or whatever when we finally retire. Um, I'm getting up there, but yeah, it's probably another 7 years out. But whatever, we'll figure it out. You know?
Well, I'll probably be working till well, I'll probably be dead. I'll probably work till I'm dead. So enjoy, enjoy. But a lot of people are going for that Airstream life. And if you can, personally, I think I'd rather jump off a bridge than live in an Airstream with someone. But I don't live well with people, as you know, because you've
Right.
known me for so many years. So don't use me as an example. I'd prefer to just live with my pets and, or even if
and
they,
and maybe a plant. Yeah,
maybe if I can keep it alive.
yeah,
I don't even do really very well with that. So
yeah. We actually found out it's like we spent the last 8 days nonstop together, and it worked out really well. So um, I was leaving, or she was leaving to go take care of some other stuff, and I won't see her for another 24 hours or so. But she's like, "Yeah, I think we get along better when we're together than when we're apart." I'm like, "I think we do." So that was kind of eye
well, that's
opening. Oh,
interesting because
good.
I have the
Yeah,
opposite. I have the
yeah,
opposite where I get along a lot better when I don't see you or talk to you than when I do when
right.
I see and talk to you. It's crazy how that works. I don't know.
Yeah, and everybody's relationship is different, right? So you got to kind of find that sweet spot. I mean,
Everybody.
we've been together for gosh, 34 years, so 33 years. So yeah, yeah,
It's a
you never
long
know,
time.
right? And yeah, you never know when at that point too. It's like where are we at personally in our own lives that kind of affects our relationship. But yeah, it was good stuff. Um, so I guess we should go into the meat and potatoes of our show. So maybe you can tell a little bit about where we're at with content these days.
Well, Andrew has always been in love with AI, okay, from the moment the public could access it. And I am not because I'm a writer, so I'm not a big fan of AI in general because I stand with the writers that are striking down here in Hollywood. They need to get paid. But
Yeah,
what happens with me and the reason that I tend to play around with AI a little bit is that we've been doing the show for 5 years and we have talked about so many different things. Some things were popular, some things no one wanted to hear, some things I don't know what, so many things. I get to a point where I hit a wall and I don't even know what to talk about anymore. So what I tend to do is I will type in general questions like what would be helpful information to know about a DIY project around plumbing so I'll do kind of general prompts. And sometimes you get a list of things and sometimes you get a detailed kind of article. So
right.
this week I was curious. One of the things that people don't want to call a plumber for if they don't have to, but is a very annoying problem would be a leaky faucet, right? And it seems like it should be a quick solution. But what I found out in diving into this artificial intelligence world was that there's actually several different kinds of faucets, right? So you're
Yeah,
going to talk about this, and I know you're
yeah.
not even going to use this. You're not even going to stay on script. So
I
I'm going to
won't,
have to
but I
jump
will
in.
go back and forth because I did read it. I actually did read it, so in its entirety. And just a little bit of background on the AI thing. I don't think any creatives are going to lose their jobs because you still have to be able to know how to utilize and ask the proper questions and form it in a way. It's like I saw our friend Jerry Ann Van Dyke comment on something about AI and how artists will always have a job because no matter what field you're in, whether it's drawing, painting, writing, any kind of creative field like that, your customer never really knows what they want. And they need the creative's help to flesh it out, right? And so AI is just going to spit out whatever you ask it, and more than likely, you're going to be kind of, your clients are going to be kind of all over the place in what they really want. And if you know how to ask the question, how to formulate it in a way that you're going to get the appropriate answers, that's key. So yeah, I don't think creatives are going to lose their jobs anytime soon because we're still going to need to be able to figure out how to ask the right questions. And I don't
So
see
you're
the clients being able to do that.
so you're suggesting that you're not firing me this week. That's what you're saying,
I'm
even
not
though
firing
I'm
you this
using.
week. I'm not
Okay.
firing you ever. But yeah, I mean, I think we're utilizing this tool, this new tool in our toolbox, but it's literally just a tool. It's not a new person that's going to take your place or take the place of creatives. So anyway, so how to fix a leaky faucet in 10 minutes or less. So is that what you actually put in there?
No, I
Was that the
actually
query?
asked. No. I actually said, give me some ideas around a good DIY plumbing project someone could do on their own. And
Oh,
this was kind of, and I did try to, I cleaned up a little bit what I sent to you, but for the most part, I thought this is a good starting point because I
yeah,
knew that you're a plumber by trade and that you could fill in the pieces that
I
were
can fill
missing.
this in.
But
Yeah,
I just get so creatively like done. Like I don't
it's
know what we're gonna
hard.
talk about. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's cool that you also said you had to clean it up. And that's the other thing about AI is like it will literally lie. It will just make stuff up. So you gotta go through it and do not believe what it says. It will lie, and they've actually
Newsflash. Newsflash.
yeah
Writers will do that too. Writers will do
yeah
that too.
yeah.
But that's
So
another
you do have to
topic.
go in and edit it and make sure that it's actually really telling you the truth. So I did read through this. A leaky faucet can be annoying. It can be like you say, it can cost you money, and especially it's like that Chinese water torture, right? For lack of a better word, where it's just drip, 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 drip. Um, and we get calls all the time about come and fix my faucet. How much is it going to be? Like, well, it's really hard to say, and I'll kind of get into it why it's hard to say. So one of the big things is the first step is actually to identify the faucet. So actually have to know what you're dealing with. And I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this a really long time. I mean, 55. I've been literally in the trade since I was 5 years old, so 50 years. I've been a plumber for 35 of those. A little over 37 years, 36, 30, yeah, anyway, a long time, almost 40 years, um, a really long time. And over the course of my life, faucets have become more and more complicated. Like when I first started in back in the 80s, it was really only a couple types of faucets. There was a rising stem compression style, which is the typical one where you have two handles and righty tighty lefty loosey kind of thing, and the stem actually will rise up and then descend as you turn it off, and then it'll have like a washer sitting on a seat and actually close the faucet. And then you have like the ball type, like your deltas or your that have like literally a ball inside of there, and there's just two cone washers, and it kind of moves around that cone washer, and there's two little ports in there in the ball. Like those are those old Delta kitchen faucets or bathroom sink faucets where you have a metal handle or crystal handle, and then you have like a Moen valve where you have like a pull out valve. It's a cartridge type style. So there's basically the style that I was used to dealing with. Now we've gotten the ceramic disc cartridges, and they kind of started coming out. I remember when we really started first seeing them back in the 80s, and they were coming out of Europe, and pretty much the only companies that were doing them were like Delta and Danfoss and things like that. And they actually had a universal style that all the manufacturers had to follow, which I thought was brilliant. In Germany, if you have one fixture, one faucet, the guts will work in another faucet. In the United States, not so much. So that's where it really comes into having to identify it. So like first you want to know what kind of faucet it is. Is it a single handle, where it kind of moves a ball, or is it moving a ceramic disc cartridge inside of there, or is it a rising cartridge like in a Moen? You got to know that. Secondly, what's really critical is if your faucet doesn't have a name on it, if it doesn't say Kohler, Moen, um, Delta, a bunch of those are some just off the top of my head. But if it doesn't have a name brand on it, it can be incredibly difficult to actually identify it. And we've gotten to the point now where labor has gotten so expensive, a lot of times it's not even necessarily even worth researching too much because you will never find it. And even some of the faucets that have Moen on them or Delta, they even have strayed and have different guts inside of them. Some of the big box stores will have their own guts inside of their faucets and badged with a name brand. So you have to get the cartridge through the big box store, not actually, you can't go to your local Ace Hardware or something like that and pick it up. So it's really critical to know what you've got, what you're dealing with. So if you've got like a rising stem faucet, those are pretty simple to fix. It's literally a bib washer and a seat. So if you pull the cartridge out, all you're going to find is like the classic little round rubber bib washer and a screw that holds it in. And then it sits on what's called a seat, and it's a little metal seat that's kind of a cone shape. And both those things are replaceable. There was a time when we did a lot of those, and we still do some like on showers, like a Price Fister or something like that. Some of the name brand ones will still do that. But if it's, we haven't really utilized that product they've kind of gone out of, I wouldn't say vogue. We've moved along in our industry. We haven't really been, I don't know if there's many rising stem faucets that are being manufactured anymore. So, you're probably talking about a faucet that's 20, 30, 40, 50 years old. If it's not inside the wall, you might want to think about just replacing it. So that's where we kind of get into this kind of gray area. So if you do want to try to fix it, that's what we're talking about, right? DIY stuff. You can fix a lot of these things. The first thing I would do is go underneath the faucet, go underneath the sink. Let's just talk about a bathroom or a kitchen faucet. Go underneath the sink and turn the emergency shutoff valves off. Then figure out how to get the handle off. And that could be kind of a problematic with some of the new decorative fixtures. Some have hidden Allen screws. Some you push the handles on and they kind of click in, and you got to literally pull them off with a lot of force. And if you don't know what it is, trying to get a handle off sometimes can be, I know I've gotten calls many times from our technicians trying to figure stuff out. It can be a real problem. But speaking of AI and speaking of Google and other things, there is the ability, if you've got, I don't know if this works on Android, but I know on iPhone, you can take a picture and then it's got a little identifier thing on the bottom of the picture. It has a little eye with a circle around it. If you push on that, it will try to identify it. So you might get lucky with being able to identify the manufacturer, because I know I do it with plants and rocks and dogs and
Android. You can do that.
You can do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So that's one way you can might be able to identify a faucet. I haven't tried that, but I know it's done it with a lot of other manufacturers and cars and stuff like that. So it will actually identify the image. So that's one place I would probably start. And then you can kind of go down the rabbit hole of trying to put in descriptors in the internet, and it'll kind of give you some images, and you can kind of find it that way. Once you figured out how to take the handle off, then you take the handle off. Now you got to get the cartridge out or the stem out, whatever the case may be. Some of them it's just a nut. Some of them you unscrew the entire thing. Some of them have an Allen set. Really look at it, stare at it for a little while. That's one thing I always tell our guys and myself when I'm working on something that I've never worked on before. I will literally just look at it for a good 5 or 10 minutes and just try to figure out what I need to do, because there may be something hidden in there and that's not so obvious on how to remove the cartridge. But once you've figured that out, then pull the cartridge out. And you've already turned the water off, so now you pulled the cartridge out. Take the cartridge into the hardware store. Don't just take a picture. Take the whole physical thing. If it's a rising stem faucet, they have they'll have a lot of times, like Ace Hardware and a lot of the other hardware stores will literally have a guide on the wall where you can put the spline of the cartridge in, and it'll tell you the size that it is. And it will kind of start you down the path of identifying it, and then you check the length of the cartridge, and it'll show you kind of the different cartridges, and you'll actually be able to figure out what cartridge it is. So if you've got a shower valve, pull the cartridge, take them in. You're gonna have to turn the whole water off to the house if you do a shower. But on a kitchen or a bathroom faucet, take the cartridge in, have them help you identify it. I would also take a picture of the faucet while you're at it, so you can take that in as well, because that sometimes helps with identifying what it is. And since you've got the picture of it and you're taking it into the hardware store, if you can't identify it, if they can't find the part for it, that's probably where I'd stop. Because you can spend, I remember back in the day when I was working for Lipsy Plumbing in San Francisco, this is pre-internet, we literally had a wall of faucet manufacturers' manuals. It was a wall about 10 by 8 feet of just faucets. So we'd go in and take the stem in, pull the file, pull the manual out, and try to identify the faucet. We were known for being able to identify some really obscure old stuff. The rate of that people have to charge to be in business these days, with all the insurance and comp and the going rate for a plumber and all this stuff, it's not really cost effective to do that any longer. And really, your time, how much is your time worth? If it's going to take you more than half a day to try to identify something, just now that you have a picture of a faucet and you can't find the cartridge, just buy a new faucet and change the whole faucet.
Okay, quick question, because we are going to be winding down here. Would you give me an estimate? Like, could you tell me if I said, okay, this is not worth my time to go through all this research. I'm over it. That's usually what happens. I'm over it.
Yeah.
Is there an estimate of what you would expect? I would expect to pay, or what's going to
For a new faucet, it really depends on. So one thing, when you go buy a new faucet tube, I would stay away from some of the brands that are, Glacier Bay, and some of the ones that are the really cheap ones. The under $100 faucets. Think about your time. How much is your time worth? Buy a name brand product, because it's really, if you buy something that you get what you pay for. So if you buy a quality product, it's going to last you longer. And if it takes you all day to put this thing in, to go to the hardware store, pick it up and put it in, how much is your time worth? Is it worth an extra $50 to buy a better product? An extra $100? Probably. Because think about the next time that this happens, you're gonna have to do the whole thing over again. And if you get a cheaper product, it may only last you a year or two, 3, 5. But if you get a really good quality product, it should last you 10 years. So hopefully you will never have to deal with this again. So buy a good product. So I would spend upwards towards minimum of $150, closer to $200. And then when you start getting into decorative, pull out spouts, all that kind of stuff, then you're talking, you can get to $500 to $1,000 easy. And then if it is, the other thing I kind of say too, like I always stick with chrome, just because I've been doing this long enough to see, styles come in and out. I was literally putting in faucets in the 90s or late 80s, early 90s that were red, white, and black. They had this epoxy on it, and that was way cool then. That only lasted about 5 to 10 years, and that went out. And then polished brass was really big in the 80s and into the 90s. It's starting to come back. I probably wouldn't do that. Or brushed gold right now is really popular. I stuck with chrome, because chrome has never gone out of style. So if you put a chrome faucet in, it's never going to go out of style. Every house I've ever had, I just put in chrome. Anyway, so yeah, that's the wrap up. So hopefully that's helpful. I know we kind of rambled around, but if you're going to try to fix your faucet, if you get into a situation where I'm just done, I want to get somebody to help me, we can help you. So give it a shot. If you need a plumber, HVAC, electrical, heating and air guy, electrical, you can reach us at 530-230-9092, 530-230-9092. You can also find us on the web at abtplumbing.com or easyasABT.com. Like us on Facebook. We got all this stuff on there. We'll have this show, and then also watch us on video or watch us on YouTube, because you can see our mugs, and hopefully get a little bit more out of this. And with that, we'll catch you guys next week, and thanks for listening. Bye.